In the 1928 presidential election, or presidential elections in the United States held on November the 6th, 1928, the Republican candidate, former Commerce Secretary Herbert Hoover, easily defeated his Democratic opponent, Governor Alfred Smith of New York. In 1928, most Americans who were keen about voting felt more prosperous than they had felt in 1924, although some wise Americans had already started to prepare for an upcoming economic crisis. One of those wise Americans was called Joseph Kennedy, and he sold at large profits his stocks just months before the October 1929 crash or sudden radical drop in share prices of the New York Stock Exchange. One issue, albeit a minor one, or fairly minor one in the campaign, was prohibition, which had been passed in 1919 as a constitutional amendment, or 1920, sorry, and which forbade officially the recreational drinking of alcohol. In other words, drinking of alcohol for fun, and then also the manufacture of alcohol for recreational drinking, and moreover even the importation of alcohol into the United States for recreational drinking. In practice, this law, although probably nobly intentioned, proved very difficult to enforce because so many Americans loved to drink, and so many American organized criminal bosses such as Al Capone profited at the expense of those Americans who wanted to abide by the law. And a number of judges and politicians were either threatened or bribed or killed as a result of the desire by many millions of Americans to keep drinking. And then there were these secret pubs where people were served so-called hard tea, which in fact was liquor. Prohibition was tried in some other Western countries, either at the national level or the provincial level, for example in Canada and Finland and everywhere else, everywhere including the United States. Prohibition was then quietly abandoned in favor of state-controlled liquor stores. And then in countries such as Canada and Finland, for some time at least, there was a so-called permit, legal permit to buy alcohol that people had to carry in order to be able to buy bottles of alcohol in these state-controlled stores. Herbert Hoover claimed that the United States was close to the full elimination of poverty. He strongly believed in free enterprise and private voluntary initiative as cures for the remaining poverty in the United States. Neither candidate addressed much, if at all, the issue of racial segregation in most southern states of the United States, which effectively disfranchised a significant minority of the voting age population through the grandfather clauses, literacy tests, poll taxes, and then outright fear and intimidation, beating up and even lynching of those African Americans who wanted to vote. Anyway, Mr. Hoover received about 21,427,000 votes, or 58.2% of the total, and carried or won 40 states with 444 electoral votes. Governor Smith received only about 15,015,000 votes, or 40.8% of the total, and carried just 8 states with 87% votes. Even his home state, New York, was carried or won by Hoover. However, in the gubernatorial election of New York, one of Governor Smith's proteges, Franklin Roosevelt, was able to narrowly defeat his Republican opponent and accordingly took office in January 1929.